Hello, Knockouts. Tanya TKO here. And as you know, I'm a self-love specialist from TanyaTKO.com. I help you learn how to love yourselves and one another. On this channel, we use viral topics as teachable moments for what self-loving or self-abusing looks like in relationship. Please do keep in mind that the subjects of the video, the people, are not the focal point. It's really the lesson from what it is that we're reviewing and how that applies to your own life. This video came highly requested. So welcome and listen. Some of you impatient people who were rushing me to get on camera, give me 1 second. I gotta grab my phone and stuff. I didn't even get a chance to set up the whatchamacallit, the video and cue and all of that. Goodness. You all were like, where's Tanya? Tanya, get on. We want to know what this feminine payness is, right? Listen, this video came highly requested, and the last time that we talked about trans issues, it really turned into a tremendous brouhaha. So I'm going to say this. If you are sensitive to other people's lived experience, this may not be the video for you. We can see you in another video, etc. Because you all know my stance, right? And when we love ourselves, we don't try to take away from the journey that we went on to get to where it is that we are. I'm going to show you all something. Oh, doggone it. Give me 1 second. I need to send it to myself real quick. I'm going to play the video, but I want you all to see the meme itself. Hey, the cat. I love that sound. Give me 1 second. Let me just send myself this image so that I can pull it up into the screen for you all. So basically it says 98% of men refuse to perform oral on a feminine penis. And I just want to show you the whole thing of it all. Give me just 1 second. Let me just grab this because people have been sending this to me for a while and I've been ignoring it because I'm like, I really don't want to get in the middle of this thing. And the last time it turned into a tremendous nightmare and I was getting cussed out by all types of people. It was too much. It was too much. But the requests have still kept coming. So I want to make sure that we speak about this today. Let me, give me 1 second. Let me just download this image. And then we're going to bring it into the screen so that you all can see. I'm opening up the wrong windows because I am feeling rushed and anxious. So let's share. Let's see. Should we share the screen or we'll just do the screen. We'll do a screen share on the image itself. That way, give me 1 second. That way we could just get it on the screen and just be able to see it. Give me 1 second. Almost there. All right, here we go. Share screen. Application. Here we go. Okay. It's not shared? Oh, there it is. There it is. Okay. So as you all see, it says Transgender Rights Movement is the Twitter page. And then it says 98% of straight men refuse to perform oral sex on a feminine penis due to their bigotry and hatred of trans women. End genital-based bigotry. Your sexual orientation may be transphobic. So that's what it says, right? When I went looking for the page that posted this, when I went to the page on Twitter, the page on Twitter was actually saying, listen, we did not put out that post. We're trying to find out where it originated. They said that they did not create this. However, part of the reason that I'm speaking about this today is because this is a sentiment that we've heard from trans women who is saying, listen, if you are not willing to date me, I'm a woman. If you're not willing to date me, you are transphobic. And so let's get into Godfrey's commentary because I want to piggyback on his words. And so listen. If there's somebody out there who knows Godfrey, I communicated with him a few weeks ago, but I want to be able to get in touch with his booking person because I want to do a collaboration with him. And so if there's somebody who knows him, oh, it looks like Kat Blaque is in the house, and I believe Kat Blaque is transgender, right? Let me just scroll and see if I can find Kat's. Okay. So Kat is saying, I think people need to be aware of the fact that there are a lot of people putting forth a lot of really strange content that frames transgender women as pushy and forceful. Kat, I only wish that that were the case if we had not done more than 14 hours of videos trying to come to an understanding and trying to come to common ground. And if we weren't met with aggression, anger, vitriol, gaslighting, verbal violence, and the such, it was befuddling. And then the way that our conversation was met was with people who are trans women bona fide, feeling that they need to quote unquote drag me and try to attack my womanhood, my femininity, my makeup, my body, my face, and all these other things, which really didn't help. And if there's anybody who doesn't know what it is that we went through, just scroll back. I left the videos up. They're on YouTube, Facebook, and we were really trying to understand and come to some sort of common ground, but it was either you do this our way, the way we demand that you do it, or we will verbally harm you, smear you, attempt to drag you. And listen, I'm just going to say this. If there's anybody out there who feels that they want to drag me, by all means, do whatever it is that you feel that you need to do. I am... I really don't know how to put this besides I'm a Nubian womb holder, right? And there's a lot of strength and power that comes along with holding this position. You know, there are a lot of people who think that we are quote unquote weak and all of these other things, but if you really look at the fact of the matter, right? Men may have bigger muscles, but in hetero relationships, who are the ones that take all of that forceful male pounding? Who are the ones who babies the size of the watermelon burst through us? It is already known that women can endure a greater ferocity of chronic pain than men can. And so I just if this is how you want to do it, let's bring it. It's okay. It's okay. Huh. I keep telling you all, I was born in the brine and brandished in the fire. And so you could try me if you want. Let me get this Godfrey video up onto the screen so that we can begin to take a look at that, right? Okay, here we go. So for those of you who are not familiar with Godfrey, Godfrey is a Nigerian American comedian who has a very brash and brackish style, but he delivers his content and he's unapologetic about it. So
fuck, man. And people are already being patronizing to you as they're talking about their race.
They're like, he's like, let me put it away.
Here, let's scroll forward. Okay, here we go. Let's see.
Full suck a female penis.
What's it?
Okay, here. Let's go forward.
Good. Yeah. Make that sure.
Okay, so listen. So he's finishing up his last joke, and his last joke was about some person who contacted him to complain about his Asian co-host. The person was Asian and was speaking to him in Ebonics. So it was a funny, great joke. So we're getting ready to move into the trans discussion now. And I want you all to just listen with an open heart, listen with an open mind, and do not call people names. Do not attack people in the comments. This is a sensitive topic for everyone. However, as we saw yesterday, we humans need to get our stuff together and need to come to some common ground. Otherwise, we're not going to make it. right? And so there are 1,500 people on the broadcast here between Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter Periscope. So if there's a message that you need to get through to me and you want, or if you want me to read it on air, or if you want to just support the show, send it through Cash App and I will read your comment live on air. And we have a few comments that have come in. And I'm going to read those in a moment. So thank you for that. As soon as we get through a portion of this, I'm going to come back to the Cash Apps. So you're doing the right thing. Do that. And then we'll come right back to it. 1,600 people on the broadcast. And the comments are only going to continue to move quicker and quicker. So let's go. If you're ready, I'm ready.
That he'll tell me, I talked to my Asian friend. How do you spell that? I tell you.
All right.
I tell you, next time.
Let's move this along.
Shows that men won't.
I'm trying to get to the beginning of the statement.
Won't suck a female.
Hold on.
Good.
Let's just let it play.
That he'll tell me.
We're not able to cue it up.
Friend. How do you spell that? I tell you. I tell you, next time, we really got to teach a lesson. Really? Fuck out of here with that.
He's going to message you again. Bro, you know that's not what I
meant. Yo, this shit is crazy, though. The insane statistic shows that men won't
suck a female penis. What's a female penis?
And it is outrageous. What is a fucking female penis, guys?
What the fuck is that?
Is that an oxymoron? What is that? Oh, look.
98% of straight men refuse to perform oral sex on a feminine penis due to their bigotry and hatred of
bigotry and hatred because you don't want to suck a goddamn. I gotta go.
Call me a fucking bigot.
Yeah, you can call me a bigot right now.
Call me a bigot.
And why they gotta have different dicks? The black one's the biggest one. Isn't that funny? The white one's tiny. That might be from India, though. A little tiny. The white ones are holding it down. So, I like the brown one, but the black one is like way out the circle.
The black one's bigger than all the other ones.
It's way out the circle.
Together.
It's way out the circle.
Oh my God, you're right.
It's way out the circle. Look at that.
Oh my God.
What is that?
That one's huge.
People are ridiculous.
Like, oh yeah.
That is pretty.
Did he run out of paint? Jesus. Why? Yeah. I'm wondering why the black one is way out there.
Yeah, why not just make it?
Hold on. Let me read this comment real quick. Kat Blaque says, I need y'all to get that this content is made to draw shame, ire, and disgust towards trans folks. Most trans women don't want you to look at their genitalia, let alone suck it. You know, I have heard that before. I have heard that. And we did discuss in the beginning that this meme was proven to be fake. However, there are people who do hold this mentality. So we're going to I just want to, there's a part of what it is that he's saying that I want us to focus in on. And so give us a moment.
Get a little bigger.
Why don't you just make them even so everybody feel good? First of all, what does it say? I love how the black was just dangling. That motherfucker off the poster and shit. Oh man, you even want to? You got an eraser? Maybe erase it back some. And that's that was a weird. And what does it say? What did it say?
What's a feminine penis? First of all,
what is that?
Those two terms don't go together.
What and don't try to call me no homophobe. No, don't you try. They will find a way to find some phobia. There's no phobia here. It doesn't make sense. What's a female penis?
It's just that's an oxymoron, like you were saying.
Yeah, what's a female penis? Huh?
That's like saying a male vagina.
Yeah.
Well, they do have the bussy.
Who said, yeah, I will suck a penis. Not just any penis, but a feminine penis. Watch how someone will say this is hate.
Man, wow. What's a female penis? Does anybody, let's ask a female.
So
you got a penis?
It appears
Alex?
that they're referring to like somebody who is born male who's decided that who's transgender, who's realized that they're transgender, but has not gone through with a surgery yet. So to themselves, they're female, like they identify as female, but they haven't had any surgery done.
Come on, man. I'm not going there.
I ain't
saying shit. Man,
I'll say it for you.
You say it.
I'm old school. You got a dick, you're a dude. You got a vagina, you're a girl. But if you recognize yourself as something else, that's fine.
So if you're with a
But don't make me suck your dick and then call me a homophobe when I want to blow you.
If you're a trans, but if you're with a trans woman,
yeah,
you would think you would go through the whole thing.
Right.
If you would what are you doing with a trans woman? No, Andre?
I don't know. Well, that's that's the thing. It's like
you got to do everything. You got to complete everything, don't you?
My thing is like people.
You can't like be with a trans woman and go, wait, where's the pussy? I mean, if they don't have a thing, you got to do the thing.
I think the case they're making, Godfrey, just to be clear here, is that there's no difference between a trans woman and a woman.
That's
right?
not
They're
true.
both women.
No.
And if you won't suck this woman's dick, you're a homophobe.
Nah, if you don't suck this man's dick, that's you know whose man's is this? That's what you need to say. Yo, whose man's is this right here? Yo, whose man's is this right here?
This is
Listen, first of
inappropriate.
all, you're not a woman, okay? You're a trans woman. That's why you call you trans woman. You're not a woman. You're a man who's transferred into, who feels like they're in the wrong body, right? Am I wrong? I don't know.
Yeah.
Am I saying this right or correct? I wish we can get an expert because you're not a woman. I think that a lot of women's rights are being taken away from them when you try. It's like men.
Okay, so this is the part. So a lot of his prior commentary, I mean, he's a comedian, so, he's doing his comedic thing. He also made fun of that woman. He makes fun of people. He made fun of that woman who got spat on by that elderly patient or whoever she was. So he makes fun of people. But this is the part that I wanted to focus on right here that he's about to say. And I would like to have a conversation about this. And Kat, if you would like to collab, let me know. Come to my website, tanyatko.com, click on contact and send me a message. And so because I personally, when we came at this before, we really wanted to understand. And I think in order to understand, we have to open up the gates for communication. We have to create a stage where people who are in this life or of the persuasion or whatnot, to be able to come forth and speak. However, I don't feel like there's one person that can represent the trans community, because when we opened up the phone lines before, there were a lot of people who had a lot of different ways that they felt about this. People who were not getting their hormones legally and were having all types of side effects with, just raging testosterones and all types of things going on inside of them, because the conversations that took place, like I didn't even cut those out, but you remember, if you all were there, you remember it got very vitriolic, very nasty, and very, very, I was afraid. And then there were people who sent me videos of trans women beating up women. And other people in the comments saying, yeah, I'm a woman, so you could catch these hands and stuff like that. And it was, and I didn't do those videos. It's been months since we've talked about trans issues, because I don't want to stoke fear and phobia. However, I do want to talk about this and get on a common ground, because my core audience are Black women. And one of the things that I see is that the safe space for women is constantly being encroached upon. And as Black women, we are vied to volley for all other types of people, while we are the ones that are being marginalized. So, or not see marginalized as, well, we are marginalized, but I'd say encroached upon, that our square, the square that we stand upon, is constantly being made smaller and smaller. So there's some things that he's about to say that I want people to pay attention to. So let's talk about that. Here we go. And let's rewind it just a tad so that we could get to the beginning of what he's about to say.
Whose man's is this right here? Listen, first of all, you're not a woman, okay? You're a trans woman. That's why you call you trans woman. You're not a woman. You're a man who's transferred into, who feels like they're in the wrong body, right? Am I wrong? I don't know.
Yeah.
Am I saying this right or correct? I wish we can get an expert, because you're not a woman. I think that a lot of women's rights are being taken away from them.
This is it.
When you try, it's like men doing that bullshit where they try to fucking take away women's rights. Regular women aren't even getting paid enough still Regular sexism isn't even over. And now you got men going, I'm a woman too. Get the fuck out of here. That's like not fair to women, dude.
No,
it's not fair to women. It's not fair to them.
No,
Let them be women. Like next minute they go, we want to have babies too. No, you can't. Women have that. And you came from one.
And then
you didn't come from a dick tip.
And then they get mad at you.
Then they want to get mad because that's all they do is get mad at shit because they're on this, let's just think everybody's phobic. Nobody's phobic. We're trying to make logic of all this shit. Nobody is phobic. I'm not phobic of anyone. You should be able to be whatever you want. But if you say, like, okay, did we talk about the athlete, the trans athletes that want to be, there's a trans woman that's in track and field.
Oh, yeah, we talked about that.
Yeah, it's that same shit. Like, you're running man times.
Yeah.
Motherfucker, and then you want to race women and you're beating them by 70 yards. Motherfucker, because you're a dude.
Right.
So you need to take your trans ass and line up in the men's shit and just run as a trans woman.
Yeah, my thing is...
And in fact, if you beat the dudes, that'll be great for trans women.
Yeah, or just have a trans-only league.
Why not? And then if you say trans-only, they'll say you're being...
It's like... It's
all...
So
and what's funny, it's
up.
all men. It's men doing this shit.
Right.
You know, it's fucking men.
It is.
Well, in South Dakota, they actually just passed a law where the Republican governor passed a law that banned transgender girls and women from competing in women's sports, particularly in public high schools and in colleges. And she is coming under a ton of fire for being anti-trans with the decision to ratify that into a law.
Wow.
It's just all this.
It's like all they do is just come under
plane.
It's like everybody's under fire. Like, why? You can't say, I just think you got to just shut up when they talk. I'm just going to be like,
it's like anything you do. They're
going to be like, well, what do you think, Godfrey? I'm like, now I'm going to be speakophobia.
Right.
All right. Then he just gets into some other
like
stuff,
speakophobia,
making some other jokes. All right. So let's continue going forward. So there were a few different things that I wanted us to pay attention to and what it is that he said. And I was surprised that he said it because when we came about this before, when we were talking about and we opened up the floor and the phone lines to be able to have these discussions, one of the things that dawned on me after about the third day of attempting to have these discussions is that there was a common theme, right? Because it was coming from both ends. So we had trans women who were saying, well, you know what, I'm a woman. There's no difference between me and a woman. I'm a woman. You shall call me a woman. You shall acknowledge me as a woman. I deserve to be in the shelters. And we talked about this before, that we need to be able to rally to get funding for trans women to be able to have safe spaces that they can avoid domestic violence and be able to go when their parents kick them out and stuff like that. And we need to be able to have safe spaces where women, people who are born with uteruses, people who are 33% smaller and who have the XX chromosome and all of the things that come along with womanhood, safe spaces that they have to be amongst other women. Right. And one of the things that I noticed in the discussion that we had is that there were people with XY chromosomes who were saying, I demand to be in this space. We showed you how in Canada there was a person who said, well, you know what, I'm trans, I'm a woman, I need to be in this shelter with battered women, and this person ended up assaulting a woman inside of this shelter. We talked about how in England there was a person who said, oh, I'm a trans woman. This person had been accused of assault in many different instances and said, well, I'm a trans woman, I need to be in the women's prison. And they couldn't discriminate against this person. And this person ended up intimately assaulting women in the prison because this person still had their parts and was intimately assaulting. And there's no standard for what it takes for a person to actually be quote unquote trans. So a person can say that they're trans, enter into a space and wreak havoc in the space. Oh no, you know what it was with the shelter? The person didn't assault in the shelter, the person assaulted in the prison, but the shelter was shut down. They removed, the trans group volleyed against the shelter, and they ended up losing their funding, so that now battered women didn't have a place to go because they refused to let XY chromosome persons into the shelter. So I'm going to show you all something, right? And I want to talk about, I want to show you Hannah Mouncey, I believe the person's name is, who is a transgender volleyball player, 6'3", 250 pounds. Let's see. I thought her name was Hannah Mouncey. Nope, that's not her name. Maybe it's Heather. Let me see if it's Heather. Give me 1 second. I'm just searching for it. Nope, it's not. Let me just search trans volleyball player. Here we go. Trans volleyball player. Let's see what her name is. Her name is, I'm having a hard time finding. Let's see. Here it is. What is this person's name? Hannah Mouncey, not Pouncey, Mouncey. Okay. So let's look up Hannah Mouncey. All right. So here, let me just share this screen real quick. All right. Here we go. So this person right here stated, oh, well, you know, I'm a woman. Let's play, you know, I thought they were playing here. So this is the person who says, look, I'm a woman, right? 6'3". Let me go back. 6'3", 250 pounds, and is playing against women. We showed you the footage of the woman who was a MMA fighter. Look, this is the person. So this is the person right here. We showed you all the MMA fighter who cracked the skull of that Black woman that she went into the ring with, right? So this is the person that all of these people trying to, and so in South Dakota, the Republican governor passed the law that the sports had to be separated, right? And so I wanted to tell you all to just realize that there is, in our politics, there's a need for balance. There's a need for balance because where liberalism is going, I just want Black people to be very aware that there's a need for balance, because where liberalism is going may not be in your best interest. Where liberalism is going may not be what's in the best interest of society at whole. Where liberalism is going may not create balance for our society. And so we have a Republican governor that stood their ground and said, well, listen, trans athletes cannot compete in women's fields. We know that the twitch muscle fiber is different, even if they've started taking hormones. So one of the things that the MMA fighter was saying is that, I'll show you a little bit of that. Let's see. I'll show you a little bit of it because I wrote about it in my blog. I wrote about the person who went into prison and assaulted women in the prison, and some of you were like, how dare you, etc. And the name of that on my website is called The Erasure of Women, and we talked about safe spaces for women. I'm going to share my tab with you all right now from my website where I wrote this. So here, right, where they were talking about how always took off the feminine symbol, but the feminine symbol is the symbol of the uterus, right? And so this is the the Black woman whose cranium was crushed, and she was down there on the floor while her opponent was atop her, beating her in the head, cracked her cranium. And it was a horrible fight. Like, if you saw it, like I saw the footage of it, it made me sick to my stomach. So this person, and this is the person who went into the jail and attacked 7 women in the jail. This is the person right there who says, "Oh, I'm a woman," and then was allowed to go into the jails. This is the shelter that was closed down because of the... All right, you all can see that for yourselves. Just go to my website, go to tinytko.com and click and go /blog, right? Right. And take a look at the article. I wrote in depth about it, and I thought it was an important piece to really consider the erasure of women. So I'm going to read the Cash Apps in just a moment, but I think that it's important for us to pay attention to the trend, right? And the trend that I'm seeing is that XY chromosome persons are again dictating how women should feel, dictating how XX chromosome persons should behave, and how they need to be in the XY chromosomes, that the XY chromosome persons need to be in the XX chromosome person space, and that we better get used to it, we better move over, and we better allow them in. And I'm like, but what about our spaces, the sports, the private areas, the Girl Scouts, and all of those types of things, right? So here, I'm going to read some of your comments, and then we're going to jump back into some of the comments that you all have sent here. So Artesinia sends $20 and says, "Supporting you, sis. Keep up the great work. Love." Thank you. I appreciate that. I appreciate that. And then we have, let me go down to the bottom. We have Desiree who sent $2. Thank you, Desiree. We appreciate you supporting the show. We have Steve who sent $10 and says, "Crypto to the moon." Oh, is it shooting up today? I'm going to take a look at that. And actually, let me take a quick look right here. All right. So we're looking at, okay. We're doing well. Bitcoin is at 58.8 per Bitcoin right now. Okay. All right. To the moon and back. Well, no, not back. Just to the moon. Let's keep going. Keisha sends $2 and says, "Black market harvesting our feminine organs." Oh, have they started harvesting? You know, I would not be surprised, because there's a lot of crazy things going on out there. Nehemi sends $5 and says, "Roundtable with minority trans folks, please." Okay. So you hear that? There's a desire for a roundtable. Raynette sends $5 and says, "Thank you, Tanya. This is very confusing." Thank you, Raynette. And Naya sends $5 and says, "Mexico has a third gender called mujer." Really? I did not know that. Mujer. How interesting. Okay. So they have mujer. All right. And I think that, you know what? And I'm going to read some of your comments over here, right? I'm going to read some of your comments over here. People like this Eurocentric crap. Not sure what you're referring to. Nay says, Lemon says there's also a third gender in India. Love says no cis is needed. Naya says, "Yes, I'm terrified of trans women." And what is it that's terrifying you of trans women? I'd like to hear more about that rationale, because are trans women feared because of the choices that they've made, how it is that they present? Are you afraid of all trans women, just the idea of it? Are you afraid of trans women who are larger than you? What is going on with that? Okay. Somebody else said, "Ain't nobody harvesting women." Finesse says trans women need their own space or compete with the men, right? So that was one of my the comments are going too quickly for me to catch them all. There are 2,000 people on here right now. Make sure that you thumbs up the video. Make sure that you share the video with people who would like to engage in fruitful conversation and be able to come to some sort of common ground. One of the things that I found when we had this discussion before is that there was a lot of just testosterone lashing out at estrogenic spaces, right? So that we had, because I remember there was a trans man who called in, who during the break, because the feed got disconnected, and during the break, the way this person hollered and cursed at me is the way that no man in my life has ever hollered and cursed at me, ever. And so we had a person hopped up on testosterone, probably raging out because of it, and lashing out at me, wanting to fight me. And this person, well, verbally fight, because I'm not interested I'm not even interested in the verbal fight, but wanting to violate me verbally, hopped up on all of this testosterone and behaving in a manner that men are not socialized to behave, or at least not any man that wants to navigate through society. Like, there's a responsibility that comes along with manhood. And so what I found during this discussion is that there were people whose bodies had testosterone coursing through it, who then began to take estrogen, XY chromosome persons who were like, look, I demand to be in this space. Then we had people who were taking testosterone, who were coming and then hollering at me, and cursing me out, filled up with all of this testosterone. So then we have us here, biological women, womb holders, who then have to deal with all of this external stuff impeding and imposing down on us. And one of the things that we don't typically see is people who have been socialized as womb holders attempting to force their way into men's spaces. And because there's a part of them that knows they know their lane, they know their place, right? However, when it comes to people who were socialized as men or socialized as boys, then saying, well, I'm going to cross over, there's a lot of that programming that cannot be undone. And so they then enter into the spaces of womb holders and like, well, I demand to be here and you better allow me in here. And so when Godfrey said that this is really indicative of male privilege, I was like, yeah, you know what? Because we talked about this before. This is the male privilege saying, well, I deserve to be in your space. You better let me in, or I'm going to wreak fucking havoc in your life. Listen, I'm going to read a few more comments and then I'm going to just leave it there for us to ponder on and posit the question. When I was in hypnotherapy school, for those of you who know me, you know that I'm a certified clinical hypnotherapist. I'm also a certified life coach with a specialty in relationship coaching. And when I was in hypnotherapy school, we learned about, I lost my train of thought because I was thinking, did I announce that in the beginning of the video? And I was like, no, I didn't announce that in the beginning of the video. And I was like, Tanya, you got to remember to announce it. And so my mind was all over all of that. But then I forgot. I was talking about in hypnotherapy school, what was it that we doggone it. It skipped me. It slipped away from me just that quickly. I'm still fasting. I haven't broken my fast for the day. So it's time for me to break my fast as well. So let me see some of the comments that are coming in. Ebony says, great conversation. It's moving so quickly, I can't catch them. I'm just going to start clicking. Don't go blurring lanes, just make your own. Is it their male entitlement? It shows them every time. They can think whatever their male mindsets haven't changed at all. Some of them even use manosphere talking points to attack women. Yeah. Pretty says, I don't find male trans that aggressive. Typically, I haven't either. However, if you upset them, and I don't know many trans men, but I've spoken to, I don't know many in real life, but online I've spoken to quite a few. And if you continue to disagree, it can get very vicious, and you have the volatility of women. You know how women can be really volatile? So you have the volatility of women. No. you have the, how do I put this? Women, I can't think of how to put it, but you have that feminine part of it, that the moodiness, that's what it is. You have the moodiness of a woman with the volatility of a man, and the testosterone that creates an extra layer of aggression. And so I'm going to say, from my own personal point of view, being in person with a person who is trans male, trans man, trans male, however you want to put it, and being in a closed environment where we had a disagreement, and the aggression and the speed and ferocity at which this aggression lashed out, without understanding the responsibility that comes along with presenting as male. Like, there are things that you get away with as a woman that you can't get away with as a man. And there are people who don't really understand the nuance. They think, oh, because I have the feeling that I am a thing, that I am that thing, without really having the full breadth, depth, scope, and socialization of that thing. And so you can say, oh, I'm a womb holder, or I'm a woman, but you may not understand the nuance that comes along with cooperation versus competition. Like, they bring their competition into it. Like, there are a lot of men that they just don't get it. Like, it seems to be ingrained, like competition seems to be ingrained in them. Those of you who have boys, you know, them and their little boyfriends or their male friends, if they want to get to the corner, they got to see who can run there the fastest. If they want to do this, they got to see who's the best, the baddest, the strongest, the this, the that. And it's really a competitive natured in existence. And women are socialized, girls are socialized to be cooperative, to be pleasing, complacent, pliable, placid. And we don't get socialized in the same way. We do not begin to get embedded with the ideas of the responsibility of being a womb holder. If you are not a keeper of the womb, you will never know what it feels like for your parents and society to impose upon you the tremendous responsibility that you have being the gatekeeper of life. No matter how you mince it, womb holders, we are the gatekeepers right here. We are the gatekeepers of life. We are the ones whose sexual selection, the way that society looks right now, looks the way that it does because of womb holders. Society has dictated, womb holders decided we like men who are larger and stronger. And thus, for the most part, now there's very little variance of sexual dimorphism. That's what it's called, when the male of the species and the female of the species look very different. In Asian countries, sexual dimorphism is less pronounced, right, than in other cultures. But keepers of the wombs are the ones who say, well, listen, this is what we like. Like, now in Korea, you see all these sweet-faced men, all these sweet-faced boys are the topic du jour. They love those sweet-faced boys in Korea. You see, they look very feminine in the face. And that's because that's what the women like. The women like it. So the smooth face with the cheeks and all that. You see them. Just look up K-pop guys, Korean men, boys, or whatever. You'll see they get very, very sweet faces, right? However, society looks the way that it does because of who women decided to mate with. And so we have decided that we like men 33% larger. A male punch is exponentially, like the pounds per square inch, hundreds of times that of a woman. So a man can really do serious damage on a womb holder. And so for us to have been the keepers of the womb and the gatekeepers for society, to create these male persons that has the responsibility of being larger and stronger with the wider, the stronger bone density and the twitch muscle fiber. And for us to have bred these people to then say, well, I'm going to be a womb holder, or I'm going to be a woman, and you're going to have to consider me a woman, and they're towering over us, overpowering us, and saying, well, you know, I'm going to take some estrogen and that I'm going to grow the parts. but they even stated that even 3 years, because that before that MMA person got into the ring with the Black woman and cracked her skull, they said even 3 years is not enough time to undo the strengthening that testosterone has done to the human body for 30 plus years. So that wasn't a fair fight. Like the way this person was beating this woman, dragging her around the ring like a rag doll, and then pummeling her on the ground, it looked like domestic violence. It looked sickening. It looked disgusting. And I don't know how anybody allowed this to go on until that woman was beat into a concussive, fractured skull. It was horrifying. Let me read some of these Cash Apps. All right. So Sharon sent in $5 and didn't leave a message. Thank you, Sharon. Vanessa says Kat is trying to call in if possible. Oh, I didn't realize that. All right. So we have a few more moments before. So we have about 15 minutes before we get to our time. So I'll turn on the phone line, but Kat needs to let me know what are the last 4 of their phone numbers so that I can be able to grab that call. All right, Elisa sends $5 and says, we don't see trans women trying to force men out. I don't understand what that means, but we don't see trans women trying to force men out. Force them out of what? Are you talking about trans men trying to force men out of their spaces because they know that they can't? They know they can't. All right, so I'll open up the phone lines really quickly. For Kat, but Kat, I need to know the last 4 of your phone number. The number is 323-488-3149. And for those of you who want to support the broadcast, I put the ticker on the bottom. The Cash App is $Tanya TKO. And so 323-488-3149. So I'm just going to continue talking until we can figure out which phone number is Kat's, and then we'll go from there. All right. So people are saying that there are a few people who want to call in. So what we'll do is we'll do a whole show on this. We're going to allow Kat to call in now. However, we can do a whole call-in show. We didn't have good outcome the last time we did a call-in show because you cannot, let's see. All right. So Kat, I see your last 4. You can't predict who's going to call and what stuff they're going to be on. You know what I mean? So I see that there are other people who are trying to call that are not the last 4. So please, let's leave the phone lines open. And then what we're going to do is I need to switch the screen over to the call screen. So give me just 1 second. Ugh, this is not the right screen. Give me 1 second. Okay. All right. I don't see that Kat has tried to call in. I'm not seeing your phone, the last 4, Kat. So go ahead and try. Let's see. And then you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to turn off the phone lines. That way other people are not trying to call in. And then I will just grab the call. What I'll do is I will give you a call back on that number that you call in from, Kat. So I see it's 323-488-3149. 323-488-3149. Give me 1 moment. Tiara? I'm getting a delivery right now, and so give me 1 second. I have to grab this delivery. I'm trying to call somebody else to get the door, but they're not getting it. Give me 1 second. All right. Sorry about that. I really did have to get that. Otherwise, it was just they were gonna leave. All right. So, Kat, listen, babe, we're waiting for you. Here we go. All right. Let's see. All right. So it looks like Kat is not able to find their way to call in. So I'm not really sure if this is the phone number because it's somebody else. It's a different number, but we're going to try calling that back and then we shall see.
Hello.
Yes. Hi. Is this Kat?
Hi. I'm so glad I finally got through. I was worried about that for a second.
No, is this Kat?
Yes, this is Kat.
Okay, because the last 4 that you posted in the comments is not the last 4 that this number is.
Oh, weird. I don't know what it comes up as, but that is my number.
Okay.
That's my actual number.
All right. So you're on it. So you're on the air, my dear. And what was it that you wanted to add to the conversation?
So a couple of things. I want to start by saying that I am not somebody who has really ever believed in trying to fight for space where I don't belong.
Mm-hmm.
I've spent most of my life not being accepted in certain spaces. And so I think a lot of trans people learn to live and exist outside of said spaces. And that's part of where a lot of our strength comes from, is the fact that we are often not embraced within certain spaces. So I'm not having any of these conversations to, argue for acceptance because I don't expect it. But I will say that one of the frustrating things as a trans person that you experience frequently is you listen to people who are not transgender talking about how you feel about certain things or arguments that you've made or ways you feel about your body. And those things are not often accurate or consistent. So when I jumped on this chat and I saw the whole thing you were reacting to where, 98% of straight men don't want to suck a trans girl's penis or whatever. I knew immediately that wasn't true or real, but it was something created for people to have the conversation that you're having now.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that it's totally valid for everybody to feel how they want to feel. If you don't want trans women in your space or whatever, that's fine. But my frustration often is that when we have these conversations, we're, again, responding to these misframings of how transgender people feel.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a reason why someone would make a post like that's fake, that again starts this conversation and paints this image of a trans person being forceful and pushy and trying to, put themselves in a position where they're not welcomed, because that is the commonly accepted transphobic idea of who transgender people are.
Mm-hmm.
I think that what people often don't understand is that when you're a trans person, especially in this world, you're made to feel like you even leaving the house, like standing outside, doing absolutely nothing, is you forcing yourself on another person.
Okay.
I felt that way throughout the vast majority of my life. It's why I was never very honest with my father about my transition, because I felt from, just growing up around him that I would be forcing myself onto him by just existing in his proximity,
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't personally, whenever I have this conversation, I will say I haven't seen everything. I don't always know what people mean when they talk about people forcing themselves on others.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes for me, it comes off as like reacting to things that, again, like this troll post that you're talking about. Sometimes it's that. Sometimes I wonder if it's simply the mere fact of transgender people existing, the mere fact of transgender people being in their proximity that makes people feel like they're being forced to do anything.
Mm.
Like, I don't know a real, actual physical trans person who sits and complains about people not wanting to have sex with them. I don't know a person who would sit and call a person transphobic for not wanting to have sex with them. I'm sure it happens.
Mhm.
I'm positive it happens. Everything's possible, but I don't know trans people who sit around and say that everybody who doesn't want to suck their dick is a bigot. Like,
Mhm.
that to me is not a thing that I think is even on most transgender people's minds when it comes to what transphobia is. Most of us are talking about stuff like, housing, employment, school, discrimination, things that like are tangible and impactful, not somebody not wanting to have sex with us.
Okay.
And unfortunately, so much of the discourse online is focused on transgender people, being upset that nobody wants to have sex with them. And ironically, every single time we talk about trans women existing and doing anything, we got to have a conversation about whether or not a man is interested in them, which I always find it interestingly cyclical in the way that we just talk about women in general. Trans women who are talking about wanting to just live their life, we have to talk about whether or not they're relevant to a man. It's funny because I have all these conversations on my channel about this, and it's like we could be talking about some stuff that's totally irrelevant to sex or intimacy or whatever, but whenever we talk about trans people, we have to talk about what their proximity or degree of interest is to a man. And it's very frustrating because there are other things to talk about. This is not the most pressing, important thing. So it's frustrating to me that so much of the discourse around trans folks is, men, whether or not men are straight for wanting to have sex with them, or whether or not a trans person thinks you're transphobic for not wanting to have sex with them. It's just like a cyclical sort of annoying thing that I don't find to be relevant to most transgender people's lives. And so, I really want to encourage people that when they're seeing shit like that post, to just be aware of the fact that there are people who are creating content with the focus of, making it so that you have a platform in which to deride trans folks. And I say that because, of course, this was a fake troll post by people trying to get reactions, but where did the conversation ultimately go? Trans women aren't real. Trans women aren't valid. Their bodies and this and not. All these things that, if you're like, so for example, we had a situation like a month ago where Sasha Shah made this video. I made a whole video about it where she was being really fucking misogynistic and disgusting and really deriding Black women. I thought it was absolutely disgusting. I think that it was misogyny. I think trans women can and often do practice misogyny. It's not, it's not something that just doesn't happen anymore. Everybody can be misogynistic. And for me, I thought that was a really clear example of misogyny. I like when people point at like stuff that trans people are actually saying and criticize it. My problem oftentimes is that, half the time when people are doing these criticisms of what trans people say and do and feel, they're not even responding to a thing that a trans person has done or said. It's often this like this hypothetical or this, maybe this is possible. Why don't we have a whole argument about it? And it's not like an accurate response half the time. Like when I hear people talking about how transgender people feel about stuff, again, it's frustrating because absent in most of those conversations is an expression of how transgender people actually feel. It's just these thoughts about how transgender people must feel and this argument about why that's wrong. It's like a straw man, and it's frustrating only because you feel like you don't actually get to say anything back. One of the things I kept saying in the comment section was that I think people need to understand that trans folks in so many ways are under the thumb of people who are not transgender so frequently. They're deciding, our access to care, our access to housing, employment, all those things that I just mentioned. And unfortunately, when you're trans, you just have to sort of live with the fact that people are going to believe their misconception of you before they're ever going to believe you. Like, again, the most relevant things in my life is not whether or not men don't want to do things to my body. Like, I've
heard you say that a few different times, but on this channel, I don't have a penis, and I'm not really speaking for people who are wondering whether or not trans people want how they are gay or whatever. So my concern is the encroaching upon safe spaces for women.
Mm-hmm. So my question with that is mostly, and I'm glad that we're having this conversation, because whenever I hear this, I'm always wondering what they mean. When you say spaces, are you talking about a women's shelter, prisons, things like that? Is that what?
Sports, shelters, prisons, any space that a womb holder wants to be around other womb holders, and being made to feel like you do not have the right to not consider us womb holders, even though we are not.
So when it comes to that, I personally, and I made a whole video about this, but I personally I think that people, if you want to have that space to yourself, I don't think that there's really anything wrong with that. I think that the issue that we're having now with a lot of people is that the reality is we don't have a lot of infrastructure to deal with trans folks. And so when given a choice between, all right, well, if you're a trans woman and you have to go here or there, a lot of people will just say, okay, well, this is a woman's space. This is the space that fits me the most. This is that. And whether or not that's right or wrong, when it comes to sports, I've never made a video or talked about sports because I don't know. Frankly, I don't have a solid position or idea around it, because I haven't done enough research around whether or not to know it's fair or not. I don't know. I don't have an opinion about it, but I understand people's reservations around it. Mostly my reaction to that is, okay, so if we want to have this space for women who are not transgender only, cool. So now what are the solutions for trans folks? Is the solution a whole new, a sort of space for them? Is it their own leagues? And then we're getting into the conversation in the comment section. I think that if we lived, I live in Los Angeles, okay? So we have one of the largest, I think we have the largest LGBT center in the world. We have, spaces for if you're a trans woman experiencing domestic violence or housing insecurity. We've got resources, for trans folks to use, but that's just Los Angeles. That's not everywhere in the world where a transgender person exists. And of course, my concern is that, all right, so we should have our own spaces. Where are they going to come from? Are trans folks just going to be able to? I mean, this is the conversation. Are trans folks supposed to just be the ones who solely fund this entire thing? Are there going to be? We have this conversation with the bathrooms. Are people going to start making trans-specific bathrooms? How does this work? Because as it is now, half of the issue is that there are no, spaces to accommodate trans folks. We talked about, somebody mentioned in the comment section, why is everybody bending over to, appeal to the 1%? And I don't even know if that's what most trans people want. My question, though, is that when you have that 1%, when you've got that trans person who you don't want in your space, what do we do with them?
Well, you know what? And I think that the initiative must be one that is a long-term solution, because the long-term solution is not to be in the spaces of womb holders, but to think long-term and say, well, you know what? We have got to find funding. There are enough people who are trans sympathetic, trans open, or whatever, who can provide funding, even if a portion of our tax dollars went to it. But I think that the initiative must be, let's listen, we're here, we're not going anywhere. I heard that chant at a parade. I think it was, we're queer, we're here, we ain't going nowhere. I think that's what it was. Correct me if I'm wrong.
But I don't really go to those marches, but I think I've heard, we're here, we're queer, get used to it.
Okay. Yeah. Well, however, but I think that the conversation needs to be, listen, we're tired of hiding. we are a unique group of society. We are neither this nor that. We are a conglomeration of different things, and we need our space. And I think that the whole conversation of, am I a woman? Am I not a woman? I think that that is a conversation that is moot, because there's already a definition for what a woman is. And so I think it's a moot argument. I think that if there are resources that are needed, that the conversation must be, how do we get our resources met? How do we create a league where we are able to compete? How do we create resources and shelters and sections of prisons and things like that, where we are able to be safe, and other people are able to be, I don't want to say quote unquote safe, but there has to be some sort of regulation for what a trans person is. Because a person that, like that guy who decided before he went to jail that he was going to decide that he was trans, and he threw on a wig and went into a women's prison and assaulted 7 women. I mean, there has to be some sort of control in place for whether or not a person really truly is trans.
Yeah, well, there's a few things that I can say in response to that. So I don't know all of the stories. I, don't have all of my information when it comes to, especially the last thing that you said. But in most places, at least in America, the only way that a trans person a trans woman can go to a women's prison is if they have had bottom surgery. They don't allow people who haven't had bottom surgery to just go into the women's prison, because the day before they went to prison, they said, oh, I identify as a woman, so now I'm going to go into the women's prison. Usually what ends up happening is you have to have, let's just back it up for a second, actually. Let's make it a larger conversation. When it comes to even changing your gender marker legally, in most places in this country, you have to prove that you've had some sort of surgery, or prove that you've been on hormones for X amount of time. In California, I was self-medicating, black market hormoning for, years and years and years and years. And I only managed to change my gender marker after I finally went to a doctor and had him sign off on the thing and, agree that I was able to legally change my gender marker. So I guess what I'm saying with that is, it's not this easy, quick, I decided I was trans yesterday and now I'm going to women's prison kind of thing. Even to get to the point where you're having bottom surgery, you generally have to go through months and months and months, thousands and thousands of dollars of therapy before you're able to have a doctor sign off and agree that you can have this surgery. So the situation, so the scenario where someone's just going to, decide tomorrow that they are a woman and then go into women's prison, at least from my own understanding and research, as a trans person, that's not, at least here in America, possible, really.
Right.
Again, I haven't had all of
that case
stuff.
did happen in England, so it's a different situation out there. So I don't know what the jail situation is here in America, and in terms of the changing of the gender marker and stuff like that, right? I think that there has to be some sort of new gender created, or genders created, where, because I think it's still incorrect to say that a person is a woman when they have XY chromosomes. I think that that's incorrect. And I'm on the outside, of course, because I don't have that issue, but I think that the greater implication of it is, and when we start thinking long-term, like I think that there are people who are looking for a short-term fix for a long-term issue. So if a person says, okay, well, let me change my birth certificate, let me change what it says on my driver's license is my gender, then it begs to question, well, then if my birth certificate says that I'm female, then why am I not allowed in XY spaces? Why am I not allowed to be here under this umbrella, when that it's a false equivalent? Like you cannot like, first of all, and it's more than just whether or not a person is genetically designed to be a womb holder. It's really about the hormonal predisposition that exists naturally inside of a person. Because if the apocalypse comes and people are not able to get their hormones, there's going to be a lot of reality that is coming into people's realm. Like, this is not something that is like genetically, you are a thing that is predisposed in your genetics to secrete certain hormones, and you can suppress it. You can take other things, but that is still the predisposition. And I think that's what a lot of people may fear. Like, when you say, these are not conversations that people have actually had. So when I've had conversations with people who are trans, and the conversation becomes contentious, and the vitriolic outburst, the violent outburst is frightening. It's frightening, and it makes me as a woman scared, because I'm like, if there's a few different things, and we've gone over the hour, so I would love for us to collab on a full video where we can actually have an extended conversation. But as a woman, as a womb holder who's weaker and smaller than a person for the most part, it makes me wonder. So if you are having these issues going on, the psychological unwellness that may come, there's a bit of psychological unwellness that exists in all trans people, because you have to come to terms with the fact that you feel that you were born in the wrong body. So there's that.
There's a couple of things to go over there.
So if I could just finish this last point. I know I've been talking for a while, so forgive me. It's quite all right. It's quite all right. Yeah. No, I know. No. It's quite all right. So the fear comes from, part of the fear that I experience comes from, if this person is already experiencing some form of psychological unwellness and are on some cocktail of hormones, whether they're prescribed by a doctor or black market, or I don't like using the word black market because, the whole black thing, but bootleg or underground, right? Hormones. What else is volatile about this person? Will this person have violent outbursts, like the verbal violent outbursts that we've seen? So, so those are some of the concerns that I have, especially with getting pummeled, because I can show you videos and remarks from people who have stated, listen, I'm a woman, so you could get beat down by me like a woman. So go ahead.
Yeah, so I will never defend people who have said stuff like that to you, because, just personally, I don't believe in violence. I've never been a violent person. That's not my personal way of approaching conversations. But some of the thoughts I had with some of the things you said, often completely omitted from this conversation, is where do transgender men fit into this? And for clarification, because I had some confusions about this in the comment section, transgender men are people who were generally assigned female at birth, who identify as men and often physically transition. And not even, I forget how long ago this was. My measurements of time are not always accurate, but there was a huge news story not that long ago about a transgender man who was having his own child. And this was a big area of contention for a lot of people who were not transgender, because I guess they sort of didn't imagine that trans men could do that and do that, and often have their own children in that way, despite being transgender men. And, I personally, when it comes to all things relating to that, I think that resources for people who can bring children into this world, women who can bring children into this world, et cetera, I think is very important. And I don't personally have, anything wrong with, I don't have anything against people wanting to have very specific conversations about that. I think that if we're having this conversation about womb holders, I'm curious if those conversations do include the number of transgender men who can get pregnant, who do have periods, who do have these things that a lot of people who are designated female at birth do. I'm wondering if those spaces and those conversations are inclusive of those men. And I'm not even saying that they have to be. I'm not even saying that they have to be. If you're saying, you know, hey, we don't want anybody here who doesn't, we only want people in this group who identify with the gender they were assigned at birth. You know, I think that's you're right. You know, I'm curious about the people who do share your biology but don't identify as women, do they belong in this space? And because you earlier
talked about the
always. You were yeah. Well, you said that like we have this definition for women, and it's people who have wombs, and yeah, that's you know, I respect that personal definition. I guess again, I'm just thinking, so where do these trans men fit? Because we always talk about trans women. I mean, and this is even more relevant when we talk about sports. There was a really popular picture going around not too long ago. I think Ben Shapiro shared it. It was a picture of a trans guy wrestling with a woman, a young girl, and everybody assumed that this was a trans girl wrestling with another girl, and not a trans guy who was designated female at birth wrestling with the gender that he was assigned at birth, because that was the law of the time in the area. And you know, there's been a lot of comments about how trans men aren't as forceful or pushy as trans women, and connecting that to misogyny. But what I think a lot of people don't understand, I think, about the way that people transition, when it comes to trans men more so than trans women, like if you're a designated female at birth and you take testosterone, it changes so much about you, in like a way where you couldn't walk into the women's room and not be seen as a weirdo because you look just like a man.
Right.
And that's not exactly the way that hormones tend to affect transgender women. With transgender women, it will mostly redistribute your fat, and it'll, you know, soften things here and there, but it won't change things as severely as it does with trans men. Trans men take hormones, it deepens their voice, changes their hairline.
Yes.
You know, it in some situations changes the structure of their bones and everything.
Yes.
And so much of that, and so much of, you know, transition on both ends is not something that if they stop doing it tomorrow, it will revert back. That's not really the case with a lot of trans hormone stuff. I was not on hormones for years, and I've only got, how long it's been? I've been back on for like 2 years. I transitioned when I was 16. I'm 30 years old. I stopped mostly because I am, yeah. And part of why I stopped, honestly, was that when you have spotty access, it can make you a little unstable, frankly. And so I stopped mostly just to be more stable in myself. But you know, that's just part of the whole thing. But nothing really changed. It's not like, you know, it's not like I suddenly started to shift back if that were what we were going at. It's just, I wasn't on hormones for a couple of years, and that was kind of how it was. You know, so it's,
well, you know what, I'll say this. I think it's really, you know, I think one of the issues is that we live in a patriarchy. That's one of the issues, where there is this male privilege, right? And I think that there is something about being born and socialized male, as well as the testosterone that trans men take, right? That kind of separates them from womb holders, right? From the typical XX womb holder who identifies as a woman, right? Where we have on both sides, and I alluded to this earlier, and this definitely, you know, requires more conversation, because what we have this issue with testosterone presenting as male or being born and reared as male, and the way that shows up in the patriarchy with toxic masculinity. And one of the things that I've seen that I was really surprised about, that I was really, really, really surprised and disheartened by, is that women who present as men or present masculinely, as well as trans men, one of the things that I've seen is that there's a portion of them that align with the patriarchy and toxic masculinity and then start to use and abuse women, start to use them like for playthings, objectifying them, and really aligning with the toxic patriarchy that we live in. And so when it comes to whether or not all womb holders can be in the same space, would I feel comfortable being in the same, like at a retreat? Because this was one of the things that came up at a retreat where we were going to do, the yoni steam. And there was a person who was like, well, I'm a woman, right? And I'm like, yes, but we're going to be doing a yoni steam, right? And the person was like, oh, well, okay. And then they were like, well, let me, because I don't think that testicles can really take that type of heat. You know what I mean? I don't think the testicles can take that heat down in that soup. You know what I'm saying? So the person was like, yeah. And that was the first time a few years ago that this really came forefront for me, because I'm like, okay, I'm loving, I believe in self-love. I want people to love themselves. I'm having this retreat called Woman in the Wild. And this trans person contacts me and is like, well, I want to come. And I'm like, but I know that we're going to be doing a yoni steam. We're going to be doing some naked work and, stuff like that. And a person who is not comfortable with how they're presenting and doesn't have the hardware or plumbing, so to speak, to do a yoni steam. So I think that there's something about testosterone in the patriarchy that really removes a person from a woman's experience. And whether you decide to inject or ingest testosterone, or whether you were born with it coursing through your veins, I think that there's something and there's a clear line of delineation, especially when it comes to a woman's safe space. Like, is it a safe space with a person who has testosterone and is horny and got a beard, even though they got a uterus? You know what I mean? Is that a safe space?
No, yeah, I totally get what you mean. I'm glad you brought up your specific situation. Just for clarity, that person were they a trans woman or were they a trans man?
Trans woman. I don't. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Trans woman.
So like when it comes to stuff like that, and this is a similar conversation that we had around Jessica Unive and all that stuff. I don't personally get why a trans woman would want to do that. It doesn't totally make sense to me. If I'm being completely honest, that just sort of seems a bit silly, in my opinion. Like, why would you want to put yourself? I don't personally get it, because that's my thing. I don't. Not that this would be groveling, but I personally don't. I'm allergic to the idea of like groveling for acceptance, even in spaces where I'm not loved and accepted. I'm not saying that you don't love this person or accept this person, but I'm just saying as an extension of my own care and self-love for myself, I'm not putting myself in positions where I have to fight for my validity. So I don't really understand why a person, who does not have a yoni would be trying to fight to be, a participant in that space. And I don't actually think that it makes you a bad person for wanting to not have that happen personally. Maybe other people feel a different way, but
I don't think I'm a bad person, and I don't think that anybody could really claim that I am.
There you go.
I don't know how that got into the conversation now, Kat.
No. Oh, I mean, because here's the thing. I know that in situations like that, there are people who would say that because you didn't want this person to be at your retreat, that means that says something more about you than what it actually is, that you want it to be a safe space for people with those parts to enjoy themselves and be free and open in a way where they often aren't, especially in community with each other. I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
Yeah.
At all. And that to me, it's like, that's not like a vital resource for a trans person to participate in. It's not, It's
no,
not
I feel
that.
you. I feel you. Well, you know what? Listen, Kat, are you open to a collab?
I am. I'm very bad at, I'm really bad at collabing, in general. I mean, honestly, because I'm all over the place. I'm all over the place and I'm real bad. I had a presentation this past, Thursday, and I was late it was a digital presentation. They were paying me a lot of money and I was late to that. I'm not great at being on schedule for things, but I'm open to it. I've actually never called in on a show like this before. So you're my first person.
Oh, we're the first. You hear that now? Oh.
Well, I have a lot of respect for the way that you do your work, and I don't do the streaming thing. So that's part of why I don't do a lot of these is I don't understand the streaming thing. But you seem like you're a pro at it. So I have a lot of respect for you being able to do this and do it in a way that funds you. Don't let anybody make you feel bad for making money and tell people to give you cash apps. Like that's, it's work. So I have a lot of respect for what you do.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you. All right. So listen, why don't you, I really don't know, because if you're bad at scheduling, then
you're on top of your stuff.
But the thing is, I don't have a schedule either, and schedules make me feel constricted, and I'm never able to really stay on schedules either. So
we're on the same page with that.
No, I feel your pain. So I don't know if we'll be able to collab, but send me a message on my website anyway, TanyaTKO.com. Send me a message so I could at least get your contact information. And maybe if there's an opportunity to be able to create a panel of some sort, and other trans women who are, able to be on schedule and can speak cogently about the topic, at least I have your contact information, can reach out to you. Because when we did the conversation before, I didn't know any trans people, and the only trans people we knew were the ones who had called in, and the conversation got very vitriolic. It was a horrifying experience for most of us involved. There was a lot of fighting in the comments. One person hollered at me and then code switched on the phone. It was horrible. It was horrible.
Jesus. Yeah, I mean that all sounds very. And honestly, part of the reason why I don't do these not that I thought this would be this, but I was I don't like fighting or any of that sort of back and forth at all. Like, I'm passionate and I have my thoughts or whatever, but I don't really believe in any of that. Like I said, I'm not a violent person, so I don't. But I definitely can understand the root of the frustration. Like, even when it came to what Sasha was saying in her video, it was all misogynoir. It was all crazy and terrible and angry. But it also kind of came from a place of deep hurt. She was hurting in that video. She and I think part of it was just not feeling heard.
Okay. All right.
And I'll never defend that, but I know that there's a lot of trans people who, when people have these conversations, they pop in on the defense and ready to attack because they're so used to not being listened to, or not being heard, or having someone speak for them. So I definitely do believe that these conversations should happen, and I am willing to have more of them.
Yeah.
Because I would like for us to all sort of at least know what each other is saying.
Yeah. How did you come across my videos, by the way, before we jump off?
I've seen your stuff a couple of times. You do a lot of broadcasts, and broadcasts have been popping into my feed. I think I know I've seen you before you made your Kevin Samuels video. But I think I started seeing more of your stuff after I clicked on that Kevin Samuels video. Because, I don't like to be in the mess, but I like to be aware.
Okay, got you.
And you're very good at keeping people aware.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Well, you know what? Listen, TanyaTKO.com, click on contact, send me a message so I can have your contact details. And then let's see how to make a conversation work so it can be, not scheduled, but not impromptu. Okay.
I get that. There's an in-between between those two things.
Yes, absolutely. All right. Well, thank you. I appreciate you coming out.
All right. You have a good one.
All right. You too. Bye-bye. All right. So that was great. I'm glad that we had that chance to have that conversation. And I don't know if it's because Kat is a speaker, public speaker, but it went swimmingly well, a lot better than it did when we tried to have the conversations before. So we did go a little bit above schedule for how I like to do my videos, but it was a conversation that needed to be had. It was something that was available to happen in the moment. So we took advantage of that and made it happen now. Hopefully there'll be opportunities to be able to open up the floor to have more discussions and us be able to get on the same loving page before the robots come for us. I mean, listen, what's about to happen out there. The robots, the zombies, if human beings don't get it together, I don't know what we're going to do. But nonetheless, let me read these Cash Apps, and then I'll read a few more comments from down here, and then we'll get out of here. All right, give me one moment. Let me go down to the bottom. Hold on. Okay. So Thomas sends in $20. Thank you, Thomas. I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you. And Khadizia sends $5 and says, my problem with a lot of LGBT men is they like to mess with, and then it cuts off. Let's see if they sent another one. They like to mess with other straight men. When you say mess with, are you talking about sexually mess with or play games with a person's mind? Because if a person is having games played with their mind, that's one thing. But messing with, is they still straight? Is they still straight? This is the question. Jay Harry sends $5 and says, thank you for speaking in defense of women. Thank you for watching, Jay Harry. T9 sends $10 and says, thank you for speaking on this topic. Thank you for supporting the show. We appreciate that. Tanya sends $20 and says, thanks for this convo. I always learn something. Hey, listen, if you all like the show, support the show, because supporting the show makes it possible for me to be able to create hour-long videos a few times a day and not have to be somebody's receptionist, talking about, hold on, I got to let this person in the door. You know what I'm saying? Hey, be like, you have a call on line 1. All right. Samuel sends $1 and says, I'm not okay with the same restroom. Safety first. Yeah. Well, you know what? At the YouTube spaces, they have mixed gendered restrooms, and the mixed gendered restrooms, it's never any issue. I did have one issue one time when there was one guy, he was the maintenance guy at the YouTube space, and he didn't wash his hands, and I started laughing at him and calling him sucio, right? And he got upset and said that he told the people that I harassed him in the bathroom and all this other stuff. And I'm like, dude, you the maintenance dude, and you're not washing your hands. You come in. I'm telling you, dude did not wash his hands. And he was like, he claims he washed his hands before he got in there and all this other stuff. And I didn't see him wash it. And I was like, you just got to be careful with some of your maintenance people. But that caused a big issue for me. So, I mean, he was sucio. How do you come into a place? Ugh. Nonetheless. Thank you. Samuel sends another $1. We appreciate that. And then Rob Payne sends $15. Thank you, Robbie. We appreciate it. Thank you. All right. I'm sending you some hearts back. Hold on. I'm trying to get this heart to go through. There we go. And then we just got a new one in from Shronitra, who says, great show. This was needed. She sends $15. Thank you. Was it really needed? I want to know what people learned from this. If you're watching the video after we're live, I'd love to hear what it is what's your takeaway from all of this. There were so many points made. And so thank you, Kat, for coming in onto the broadcast. Thank you all for being here. Go out there and love one another. Most importantly, what? Oh, that's right. Love yourself. And part of loving yourself is not being ashamed of your journey, not attempting to circumvent the real life experience that you've had and try to pretend as if you're a thing that you're not. You know what I mean? So, I'm sorry. I'm full with air because it's time for me to break my fast. And this is my book of affirmation, self-love, right here. It is available on my website, tanyatko.com. You can get your autographed copy. Please allow 2 weeks for your autographed copy to come, because I autograph each one with a personalized message, and I am shipping them myself during the pandemic. So give time for your book to come. This book helps rewrite your subconscious programming and rewire your brain for self-love. You know that I am a certified clinical hypnotherapist, and this book was made with the most powerful affirmations that I said when I was living in my car, and what I used to not only get out of the car, but step into abundance, unapologetically at that. So find me on the internet. I'm on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and the links are below, as well as the links on how to support the show, how to become a monthly contributor, and how to send me a message. All there in the description. And I will see you all in the next video. Go out there and love one another. Most importantly, love yourself. And part of loving yourself, like I said, oh, we did this already. This is deja vu. Not absconding your journey for somebody else's. Also, standing your ground and keeping an open eye and mind about what it is that you deserve by holding your own space, as well as not giving your blind loyalty to any political party, because listen, too conservative, we got problems. Too liberal, we also have problems. We need a good mix. So give your support to the causes and the parties and the ideas that you want to see go forward, and make sure that you vote and stay on top of those things for yourself, because how do we get funding? We vote. We rally our local representatives who speak for us in Congress. So that's how we do it. And on that note, I'll see you all in the next video. Let me just check and make sure there's no more Cash Apps that have come through, to make sure that I read them on. And there was one. So here we go. Janie sends $25 and says, thank you. Appreciate your insight and keeping us, I guess, informed. So thank you. I appreciate that. And you can always send me texts throughout the day on the Cash App, and I will check those. I'll send you back an emoji, as they allow us to send emojis when I'm able to respond to it. Zaza, people in the audience are still talking. Somebody said this is going to become an integration situation. Interesting. Aaron says balance. Oh, wait, somebody's calling money hungry. Oh, chow. Honey, you just look hungry. Don't be angry with me. Just get your own, what you need. Am I money hungry? Yeah, I'm money hungry. Yeah, I like money. What on earth? You can't buy a house. You can't get the car you want. You can't buy the fancy clothes that you see, my uniform. You can't do all of that without money. Stop it. So Marie says, I manifested my robot husband so I don't have to work anymore. You know something, some of you out here got some Zaza saying, don't fall for the troll, Tanya, please. I know, right? I don't have it in me to fight these people. Kay got it. I'll let Kay got it say it for me. Thank you, dear. Thank you. You saw that picture. You saw it. You know that person was having some trouble. You know. I will see you all in the next video. Listen, Marie says, I'm money hungry and have no shame. You know, exactly. Because you know what? It's always those people. Let me tell you, it's the people who's like, I don't care about being wealthy, that don't got no money because you don't care about it. I care about it. I am wealthy. I am wealthy. Speak it into existence. Exactly. And let those dollar bills come marching in. I remember when I wanted money and I didn't have money, I had to do these meditations. And I'm actually creating a money meditation for you all with these dollar bills, you know, just like in you know, Alice in Wonderland, them dollar bills were marching towards me. All I saw was dollar bills with their two little feet. You know how the feet were moving like this in Alice in Wonderland? That's how them dollar bills were marching. They were marching towards me. And I was just imagining dollar bills marching my way. So yes. Here we go. See, people, oh, it's going fast. I love money. That's right. Exactly. Let them dollar bills march in. Hey, exactly. I'm a millionaire. Go for it. Exactly. All right. Yes, this broadcast is over. I'm just reading some spare little scraggling comments. You know what I'm saying? Exactly. Hey, money flows to me effortlessly. You doggone right. Each and every day, more and more abundance flows my way. That's one of the affirmations in the book. The book brings money to you. Let me find that. Each and every day, more and more abundance flows my way. Right there. Yes, darling. Each and every day. Say that to yourself, and then wait for my MP3 where we go into meditation, into hypnosis, and I have them dollar bills marching towards you, or they could be running and jumping into your pocket. Hey, jumping into your bank account, and all you hear is that cha-ching sound, like how I created for my Cash App. I will see you all in the next video. Peace. Marching. Hey, come on, money.